So, the day before, the game that has shattered the internet, the influencers are calling it a scam. Every gaming YouTube channel, I guess, including my own, was covering it and sharing their opinions, including myself on the very first day. I played the game for 3 to 4 hours. I was live streaming it. I took a segment from the live stream. I uploaded it here on YouTube, and that set a few people ablaze. Apparently, I did not criticize the game's development, the development team, and the game itself enough, even though I was trying to see if there was any redeeming qualities in the game, addressing the biggest issues that I seen with their game, with their potential development, with the release of their title, criticizing those points while also recognizing that there are some decent attributes for a day one release of a title such as that. Whenever there's a new game that comes out, I really try my best to be as objective as possible. I don't want to just regurgitate the most recent meme and the common opinion from every single brainless comment I see on the internet from my peers or otherwise. I want to actually check something out for myself and see what I like and what I don't like, and actually bring that to the table in a video. And that is what we're going to be doing today. The first impressions was just that. I played the game for 3 to 4 hours. There was still lots that I didn't know, and today I'm giving you guys the full beans. So last Thursday, we finally got our hands on the day before, the open world survival MMO of the future, the next generation, which ended up not being that at all and turned out to just be another extraction shooter on a disjointed map that really looks like it was created for the sole purpose of creating gameplay trailers, which is kind of hilarious. I decided to explore their entire map to see what I could find, and I was even able to get to some of the rural areas further in the north and actually explore around. And it really quite is that. You have a rural house with a couple of fields, with a few what appears to be assets, and you go down the road and then you see a diner and a small group of houses and a random prison and a random hospital, and these areas that were created for gameplay trailers. Also, an entire empty area that was just created to showcase mudding physics, I guess, driving to a random gas station where there's really no purpose for it to even be there. There's like totem poles that emanate music, UFOs that are stuck into the mountainside. It is an incredibly strange scenario. You have like a waterfall dam with helicopters that are flying in a loop. It is honestly the strangest map that I've ever seen in a game ever. So the map is kind of a strange experience, but I'm going to transition here, talk about some of the things that I actually do like about the day before, because there are very few things that I like and the majority of it I don't. So what possibly do I enjoy with this game? Well, I think the player controller is actually not bad. Although it's a third-person survival shooter, and that has lots of issues that come along with it, how you actually walk, run, crouch, move through the world, aim your weapons, that's not that bad. It's definitely better than some of the other games that have released, certainly better than Scum at release, certainly better than Miscreated. I know I was picking on that during my first impressions and it upset a lot of people, but it's absolutely true. And it's not the worst. It is totally playable. It is usable. It is easy, it's not convoluted, you're not juggling magazines or fiddling with any weapons. You aim, you shoot, you reload, you run, you move, you crouch, you peek. It is pretty simple and straightforward, so I will give them points for that. The only problem is no vaulting, and there's lots of collision. Walking upstairs, that doesn't work. Vaulting over objects is obviously not in the game. Ladders, you can't climb ladders. Game devs, stop putting ladders in your video games if you can't climb ladders. What's the point? Remove the ladders. Trust me, people are going to be less upset. And then also, the gameplay environment, how the game graphically looks, is pretty good in comparison to its competitors. It's not the worst, but that might say more about Unreal Engine than the developers themselves. The only other thing that I actually kind of like with the day before is the weapon modding system. It works very similar to other games. They're not the first. You buy different weapons, you can go to a workbench, you can modify your guns pretty extensively, suppressors, muzzle devices, hand guards, grips, pistol, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's pretty standard for 2023 when it comes to a extraction shooter, which is not something it was supposed to be, but I gotta say, it's pretty good and it works rather well. You can also find workbenches in the world and craft your guns without having to go back to your stash. And that's it. Those are the only things that I actually like with the day before. So let's talk about what I don't like. And since we were discussing the stash, let's begin there. The stash system is really strange. Whenever you actually sell things to the traders, you get money. That has to go back into your stash if you want to actually play another match, and it needs to be removed from your stash if you want to buy anything. If you sell to the dealers, you got to make sure that you have your entire coin stack on you at all times before you can actually buy anything, making it extremely annoying whenever you actually store your cash in your stash. You have to constantly run back to this girl, go to the stash, open it, run back to the traders, buy your stuff, run back to the stash, put the money back in there, and it's just an annoying experience. And the way they designed the system has led to multiple duplication bugs that has completely destroyed any resemblance of an economy that they could have possibly had. And they weren't banning anybody, and they were just letting people dupe. There's gonna be wipes and stuff. There's lots of different ways to duplicate with their poor stash system, so I'm not even gonna go there. It's just a massive problem. Now, if you want to upgrade your stash, you can go to your land plot where you have a tent and you can upgrade your home with millions of currency. And whenever you do that, it increases your stash size. You can also buy vehicles like multiple perfectly crafted sports cars where you can drive around a disjointed map. No vehicles spawn in the actual world that you can scavenge and salvage, but you can drive an orange Lamborghini, and it's kind of it is, you know, I don't know why. Why? When it comes to the weapons, I just talked about that earlier. It's modifiable, very similar to other games, and the ammunition for the weapons is similar to what you'd expect in a game like PUBG, where 9mm is for the MP5 SMGs, but also for your UMP 45 is which they kind of call it, but it also shoots 9mm. Your AK shoots 7.60 by 39, as well as the break action and the M1 Garand. So you do have armor-piercing rounds for some of the weapons, but it's a very simple, bare-bones, not complicated system. Some people are going to like it, but other people aren't, because now you have a system where the weapons themselves dictate the damage, not necessarily the ammunition. So you'll have an AK that shoots a zombie 4 times in the head with the same round, or a break action that one-shot zombies in the head. It's just lazy, really. It's just lazy. And the way they did the zombies, you know what? If there was more of them, it wouldn't be that bad for an early access zombies survival game. But for a zombie looter extraction shooter, which is not really something we expected from them, there are just not enough. You can go a half hour, 45 minutes if you stay in a match long enough without seeing a single zombie. But I will say the one thing I do like about them is they place them in vehicles and some buildings around corners that will actually jump scare you whenever you're looting a car. There's like one that will pop out and spook you, and that was kind of great, but everything else kind of sucks. If you're going to release a zombie survival MMO, not an extraction shooter, you need to have enough zombies. If there isn't enough zombies on the map, delay the release of your game. All right? It's come on, guys. It's so simple. Don't release a completely empty world with nothing to do, with no PvE threat. You should be running from the zombies to save your character's life, not trying to look for them for something to do, just to shoot them 3 times in the head with an AK, right? It's so dumb. There are also 0 stealth and hearing mechanics to the zombies. Even if you are crouching and making very little noise, you could be crouching out of line of sight in a ditch, and as long as you get relatively close to the zombie, they will start running after you. So there's really no point of being stealthy at all around them. So for the PvP, I wanted to wait and give them another day or two to actually try out the servers with less population, just to see if I could give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe some of the jankiness of the netcode in PvP was simply due to the overwhelming server capacity. That sadly had very little effect. The PvP was just very laggy. The netcode isn't up to snuff for a game such as this. You'll be running around a corner and people are teleporting around and disappearing and just overall being rather laggy. There seems to be a 1 to 2 second delay with most of your actions. So if you headshot another player, they have about a second or two to react, and if they headshot you, you're going to kill trade. So it's pretty rough. For your survival mechanics, you just have thirst, hunger, and your health, so you don't have to manage your temperature or anything else, your fatigue, nothing along those lines. You do get overweight if you carry too much loot, which reduces your stamina regeneration and stamina burn a little bit, but other than that, it's incredibly simplified. Eat a can of food, eat or drink a bottle of water, and use a medication to get you back into the game. They do have medications and stimulants and things like that that are supposed to help with stamina loss or pain cover and recovery when it comes to broken limbs. But from what I can see, there was never a time where I've ever needed to actually use that stuff. So I feel like it's placeholder for the future, but you know, double click a bandage. It's very PUBG-esque. It's pretty much the same as what you'd expect in a battle royale. Now, when it comes to the looting, it's rather lazy. There are no proximity looting or loose loot in the game. It's all container based. You loot an empty shelf, you might be able to find some food. If you drop something from your inventory, it turns into a duffel bag. If you loot something from another player and drop it, it turns into a duffel bag, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's pretty lazy, right? It's not really complex right now. Typically, these types of games like to have both, you know, proximity loot, loose loot, and some container loot. I will say though, again, I will do my best to give credit when credit's due. Interacting with the containers almost always has an animation, and I can respect that. So if you open cupboards, you actually open the doors, you open trash cans, you open the lid, you loot cars, you open the car door. So that wasn't that bad. It's like there was like glimpses of what something could be, right? Just little tiny morsels of glimpses of someone there or volunteering, working there or volunteering, doing something good. Shooting the water had better physics than some of the AAA games that have come out recently. Your footprints leave marks in the mud, and there's full mud physics for vehicles and for the players. So it's not like everyone there dropped the ball. Some people were like, hey, that task was done successfully. It's just it's so inconsistent, right? So that's the individual breakdown of some of the features in the actual game, but I'll kind of give it to you right now on what the gameplay experience is like. You spawn into the world, you run away from the alarms that are set off inside of the buildings. You can disable them. The disabling feature is actually kind of cool, but they're so loud that you end up just running away from the alarms. And that is what's your driving factor. It's not like, hey, let's go explore that cool building. Maybe I want to go and do a quest. Nah, man, you're running away from alarms and chasing gunshots. And the reason why you're chasing gunshots is there's virtually nothing else to do on the map. So once you actually run a couple of blocks and find gunshots that are not audio files, but actual players, then you try to get into a gunfight. Maybe you win the gunfight. You have literally 20 seconds to loot the body. If you don't loot fast enough, the body disappears and you lose all your loot. In some cases, I had the body despawn in like 5 seconds after taking out another player. I swear it was that fast. It was absolutely insane. I couldn't even apply medication to myself before a body disappeared from the world, losing all the loot and the entire purpose of playing the game. And now let's just say that hypothetically you were able to loot the player that you just killed. Then you have to walk to the extraction point and then get out of the match, store your loot in the stash, buy some stuff, store the money in the stash, and re-queue. There isn't anything else really to do. You can try some of the missions, but they're just bare bones. Go loot 3 objects in a certain area that spawn in the world just for you, and then take them out and use this currency to buy other things, very similar to money. So that's it. That's what you get when you play the day before. So what's the takeaway? What's the lesson? We're going to be talking about the day before for years, because it does bring up a couple of really important points, especially if you are looking to develop video games. This is what happens when you vastly oversell your product, even mislead people on what the game is actually going to be, and then not only that, release a game that isn't even the genre that you said it was going to be, and underdeliver on all the features that you promised would be in the game in the trailers. And then after you release your game, you delete your gameplay trailers so then people can't criticize you for misrepresenting your gameplay release. A couple days ago, when I released my first impressions video, I again try my best to be as objective as possible. I don't like to just spew random bullshit. I don't want to just be like, game scam, game bad. Oh my God, this isn't even a game. This is not, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that because that's freaking lazy, right? Like, I don't want to just put it in the title of this video and then make it a thumbnail that says it's a scam and then just bitch about it just being a scam for 15 minutes without actually providing any substance, all right? That's not what I want to do. If it's actually a bad game in the wheelhouse of video games that I personally play on my streamer YouTube channel, I want to tell you why it's bad. And I hope I did that for you today. And the last thing I will say during my first impressions video, I did say that in the current state of the game, it was better than Miscreated. That was during my live stream. It was a bit of an edgy thing for me to say, and I was kind of joking around, but in some respects, I was also being serious. The zombies in Miscreated are very similar to how they function, or the mutants, I should say, to very similar to how they function in The Day Before. Actually, I think there's a lot of similarities to Miscreated and The Day Before with how they've actually set up the game. The only thing that's different is Miscreated had a far better map and had a better vision, where The Day Before doesn't have any vision, doesn't even know what it is. And I don't even think some of the developers and volunteers that worked on the game really know what it is. And I don't even think some of us who've played the game really understand what's the goal or the intent of the game. And the final thing I will say is, holy crap, you charged $40 USD, $52 Canadian for this experience. The Day Before is absolutely a scam, deserves all the negative attention it is receiving, and is a great lesson of how to royally screw up the marketing for a video game and the release of a video game. It is one of the worst game release experiences that we will remember for the next decade. Good luck, Day Before. You guys are certainly going to need it.